Hello and welcome into the Sporting Pod. Along with Tony Allegretti and Mauricio Ruiz, I'm Cole Pepper. Coming up today on the pod, one of the big questions answered as Sporting JAX introduces our first coach, what Stacey Balaam is saying about the job and the opportunity in Jacksonville. Plus, Cupsets. Yes, the second round of the US Open Cup. We look ahead to some interesting matchups in the third round, and the FA Cup down to 4. Who will lift the hardware? We are fed by the Bearded Pig, locally owned and operated in San Marco. Jack's Beach location downsized. I think this is the last week, so if you want to hit there before going back, we'll have more information on what's happening going forward with the Bearded Pig, but make sure you swing by the Bearded Pig for some great barbecue and great times. Yesterday, we're taping this on a Thursday morning, as is our wont, from the Gemstone Media Studios.
As one does.
As one does. Yesterday, at the University of North Florida, UNF Arena, we made the announcement of the first head coach in Sporting JAX history. I want to put a little context to this, as I did during the announcement yesterday. There are, as we sit, 22 active professional women's soccer coaches in America.
In women's league.
Okay.
Coaching.
By the way, can I back up on this? Because I got a little pushback yesterday when I said,
when you said it. I thought you said it correctly.
I did. I went back and watched it.
Okay,
so I just want for those who may have said, you said there were only so many women. No. There are 22 women's professional soccer teams in America. 14 in the NWSL. 8 in the USL Super League.
Correct.
Everything else is pre-professional or college or
I fact-checked you real time.
Yeah. So this makes 23.
Correct.
There are fewer head coaches of women's professional soccer teams in America than there are NFL head coaches or NBA head coaches or you name it.
Yeah.
And certainly less than there are head coaches of men's professional soccer teams in America, which they're about 100 plus between MLS, USL Championship, USL League One, MLS Next Pro.
We're growing the game, though.
Yes.
Getting more.
The women's game is growing.
Yeah. Exhibit A.
There are less than a third of the coaches of women's professional soccer teams are women.
Yeah.
So this is rarefied air for Stacey Balaam to take this over. You were there in the room with me, fact-checking me.
I was, real time.
Yesterday. Tell me your perception and your takeaway from yesterday's announcement.
Well, it's a long time coming. It was amazing. It was, and of course, I knew a little bit ahead of time, and so I had a little heads up on it. But so again, growing up with my mom, who was a coach, who coached my sister. Who played Division I, but then had no options after. She was. I was good, but she was really good, but couldn't play. After college, it was massive, and we had always intended, even before Mark, our want was to have a women's coach for the women's team. Very few licensed pro coaches available at all. And that's one thing, and I'll just interject here too, that the USL has an eye on, and I think is working on ways to get coaching certification for current players, I think of both genders, et cetera. Anyway, huge day. I know it made my mom and my sister proud, which was excellent. And so, really, really great. And I think Mark did a great job, and I think we're gonna love Stacey.
All right, Mao, your thoughts on this? You had again some advanced knowledge of this to some extent. You kind of understood how the process has gone on. And I think when we had Mark Warburton on the radio show, he said that the process of finding a women's coach was hard because he had a high standard. And we'll hear from him in a moment about sort of how he came to unearth his top pick. But your thoughts on the announcement, and it certainly is one of the big ones that has to take place before you can kick off.
Yeah, Cole, I think you hit it on the head, just the historic impact of this announcement. And, Mark and I and Becky have been involved in his ordeal for the better part of the last, 12 months or so. of going through several different candidates. I mean, we've done plenty of Zoom calls. Mark has visited with candidates in person, domestically and overseas. And a lot of them had great attributes. But Mark is someone of high standards, as we know, which is why he's our sporting director. And there's certain things that just needed to meet his criteria. And a lot of people have met several criterias, but you know it when you know it. And Mark was really diligent and timely. And we passed up, to be frank, on candidates that maybe for the ticker or for the for the press, maybe hits the box a little bit differently. I don't know, but Mark just needed to know that he's comfortable and he's confident, and the criteria are important to him. And when you know it. And as you mentioned, our men's head coach is going to be important, but the impact of the first ever women's professional organization and whoever's going to be leading that realm and the limited people that can actually represent that. And we didn't necessarily have this criteria that he needed to be a female, but would have liked it to be a female, because what Tony just mentioned, there aren't a lot of females out there that have been given this opportunity, but also we weren't going to drop the standard just to fill that box. So the fact that Mark was able to identify someone that ticked all of the boxes plus some, it took a long time, but I think it's better to wait and to be certain than to do things quickly and not be as confident about it.
Let's give you a little bit of background in case you haven't been able to get up to speed on what Stacey Balaam's background is. She most recently was the associate head coach at Vanderbilt, had moved her way up in the ranks very quickly there after a couple of seasons in Nashville. Previously had been the head coach at West Georgia, played was an assistant at North Georgia, and played professionally as well for the Atlanta Silverbacks, where she won the USLW championship, the previous USLW incarnation. Won a championship there and also played professionally in Iceland. And I think it's probably fair to say, Tony, that Mark Warburton feels that she is a diamond in the rough.
Yeah, I think so. He definitely saw something. They're both Londoners. I think part of that sort of history, and she's a big Hammers, West Ham fan, grew up right next to the park. Very much a seasoned expert, and she I think also she was just recently got an even more senior kind of title at Vanderbilt.
Yeah, as associate head coach. Yeah.
So it was a bit of a coup, I think, too. So Mark really worked his magic and got the candidate that he thought was going to lead us, and she's amazing. We had dinner. Quick story. Mm-hmm. Last night we met for dinner, and we were waiting on Becky, and we're on TV. There was like a 30 for 30 on about Becky, and I'm like, come on, yeah. What kind of? I mean, is this real life?
I've seen that one. By the way, I've talked to Becky about it, and she goes, "Oh, that's baby Becky."
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, it's insane. You're sitting there waiting for her, and she wasn't late or anything. We might have been early, but it was just so funny.
Yeah. All right. So let's hear from Stacey Balaam. I after the press conference yesterday, I sat down with her for about a 20-minute conversation. We'll air the entirety on radio coming up on Tuesday, and we'll play a snippet of it on TV, about 3 minutes or so of it on TV this weekend. But wanted to play a couple of minutes for you here, starting with her answer to my question about the opportunity that she has to inspire young girls in Jacksonville as a result of taking this job.
Well, hopefully they're coming to support at the games, and they, we gain some fans because I think that that's really important. And to have someone to look up to, just emulating the players that they love to watch, and talking about them after the game, and going home and referencing "we won," and using it as a term that we are all together. I think it will show their level of passion for it, and hopefully will drive them and energize them to become a professional and put in the work that is required.
We talked about where the women's game is in England now. Did you have that growing up? Did you have
women's soccer players that you looked up to? Was that opportunity there for you?
No, and that's where I feel like I fell short in that sense, because there wasn't that opportunity to create those role models for me. But I looked up to the players that were actually here in the US, the Brandy Chastains, the Mia Hams, and they were in the spotlight. You know, they were the best in the world, and so to watch the type of soccer that they were playing and the type of support that they were getting. I mean, the stadiums were full for those World Cup games, and I remember having posters on my bedroom wall of those types of players, and that's why I was so eager to come over to the States, because I just realized that it was the opportunities were here, and so now it's different. I mean, there is that opportunity now for young players to look up to players in England and have those types of role models. But it was either men's soccer players in the Premier League that I was looking up to, or it was players over here that were doing it on the world stage.
Now, really something to hear her say that Brandy Chastain and Mia Hamm and the 99ers were the, sort of one of the inspirational figures. Now she has a chance to lead a team that can be similarly inspirational on a different scale to young female soccer players in Northeast Florida.
Well, that's exactly it. It's not, you're only talking about one generation from what she had grown up to, and there wasn't any evidence where she grew up in Europe to look up to players. And now there are plenty, right? I mean, she can look at her native, English team, and in Spain and many others that are actually caught up in many different ways with the U.S., which was an outlier at that time and much ahead of development in women's football than anybody else. And now she gets to create the same thing that she was inspired by. She gets to be part of that creation here, not just as a coach of a team, but as a young professional too. There are many girls that went through the process that didn't even think about becoming a coach or an executive or admin in football, that now she becomes that inspiration for somebody that, even though her professional career maybe didn't go the direction that she hoped to go, and not too many does, she also saw another pathway. And so I think her story is very much unfinished and incomplete. But I think, later, not only us in Jacksonville and the soccer community, but her, for her personal story, this is a monumental, and she's going to be part of history of women's football, because of this hire.
Yeah, no doubt about that. It was interesting how this came about. You touched on it a little bit, Mauricio, with the amount of interviews and the scope of the search to try to find the right person. I do also want to give Mark Warburton the opportunity to tell the story about how Stacey Balaam went from the associate head coach at Vanderbilt to becoming the first head coach at Sporting JAX. Here's what Mark had to say.
I talked to her about a player at Vanderbilt University, and the more we spoke about the game, common interest, West Ham and UK football and Premier League, and we ended up talking for a long, long period about football in general. And the more I spoke to her, her passion for the game was evident. Her knowledge of the game was deep, her understanding of tactics and players, her desire to learn, a desire to promote the women's game, and desire in general just to move everything forward. So speaking about the player in question was great, but the more I spoke to her about football, I realised that the answer to our coaching question was right in front of our faces there. She was the type of person who communicates so well, can galvanise a playing group, knows when to be tough, knows when to be softer with the players, understands what it needs at the higher level. So for me, she became an obvious candidate.
Sometimes you just have to keep your eyes open.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I love about Mark, too, is with his press conference, he really talked about the enjoyment factor, right? Mm-hmm. The players are going to have to enjoy it. Yes, it's hard. It's a tough job. You're going to have to really train. You're going to have to really put everything into it. But if you're not having fun, it's nothing. And one of the things that really struck me about talking with the coach is that she's in the same mindset. It's got to grow the game. everyone's got to come along. Everyone's got to enjoy it. And that's something that I think if it's missing right now in youth sports, the pathway to pro, it's also serious. But I also like we're not here on earth for a long time. If we're going to go out and endeavor in sport, it needs to be fun.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. It's also fun when you win. So we'll see how that all comes together.
I'd say more fun.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
Hey, this is a great time to Mo. Sorry, Mauricio, you wanted to chime in on that?
No, and Tony just finished, heavy on our purpose in life, and while we're here on this earth, make sure that we're doing something special. But that was awesome, Tony.
Thank you.
There's a message out there to people, and that Mark's story, I think it's absolutely remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
Of if you're gonna do anything, do it well, right? Because you don't know who's watching, and you don't know who's calling in your name. I mean, she was being called to give a reference of a player that we are going to potentially be looking at. And in that conversation, little did she know, little did Mark know that she was potentially be a candidate that she wasn't even looking for. But when once you know, you know. And Mark had a conversation, he said, no, there's something special about this young lady. And he did his homework, he followed up. But as a professional in football, it's such a we think football is like this massive game. And it is, because it has a massive reach. But in the sense of players and coaches, and we've been going through references from agents left, right, and center, international, domestically, and everywhere. I mean, I've been aiding, and Mark has as well. And then all of a sudden he picks up a phone call to talk about a player, and that's why he finds his coach. I just think there's a beautiful story there. I think that's a story to be told multiple times for players and coaches, and really professionals of all walks of life, to remember that, if you're going to do anything, do it really, really well, because you never know.
I also, I'll be looking forward to if Sporting JAX signs that player. That's a story we have to tell as well, that here is this player that in some regard is the reason why this.
Yeah, she's going to want some solidarity payments.
Yeah,
or something.
Right?
If she didn't. Oh,
exactly.
Oh.
All right, so we'll get to that as the USL Super League season approaches. August for the kickoff, and season tickets are now on sale for the Sporting JAX USL Super League debut season. Tickets start as low as $10 per game for students, $12 per game for supporters, and $15 for general admission. We also have reserve seating, premium seating, field seating, club seats, you name it.
And if you're a girl dad, you got to do this.
Yes,
you have to do
for
this.
Sure.
Yeah.
Listen, I have written this into my contract to get tickets.
Perfect.
So I'll be working during the games,
right?
But so that my daughter can be out there watching this and enjoying the atmosphere and starting to make that connection with those players. No doubt about it. Tony, I'm sure you look forward to seeing your daughter out there as well.
Yeah, she will be out there for sure.
All right, premium and field seating, great way to go. But those field seats are going fast. So if you want to jump on those, I suggest you go to sportingjax.com/tickets or call 904-863-KICK. If you want to remember it, 904-TOE-KICK.
Yes, how Mauricio plays.
How I might play. Yeah. You can join the movement and be a part of her story. All right, let's get to the US Open Cup. We got some cup sets, Tony Allegretti.
Yeah, they're simmering.
All right,
more reds again. I don't. We don't want to sort of pump up red cards, but man, there's been quite a few.
Let me just run through the results real quickly, and then get both of your takes in the big picture. Lexington SC that won their opening match in the championship, and then haven't won a league fixture since then. Fell to Columbus Crew 3-0. So a rough go for Lexington, USL championship team, losing to an MLS Next Pro squad there. South Georgia Tormenta, a team of semi-local interest, a 3-2 winner over 4-0. Miami FC knocked off Inter Miami 2, 1-0. So Miami FC has been struggling in the USL championship, gets the win and moves on to the third round. Charlotte Independence beat Charlotte Core, so that is a USL League One beating an MLS Next Pro. El Farolito, once again, Mauricio, getting the victory. They knock off Monterey Bay 2-1. El Farolito is one of the two or three lower division teams that just absolutely have had a heyday in the U.S. Open Cup of late.
Giant Slayer.
Yep.
I think they already have won that lower league prize.
Is that right? So they're
maybe not, but they're definitely in the running, right? Because they've already beat championship.
They're UPSL, are they not? I'll have to check.
Or NPSL. I can't remember.
Yeah. We'll have to do a deeper dive there. AV Alta Vista, a USL League One team, beat LAFC 2-1 despite a red card. Portland Hearts of Pine with a red card knocks off Hartford Athletic in PKs 4-2 after being 1-1 in regulation time. Loudoun United wins in the USL Championship. The Chattanooga Derby. And this is something we could talk about for the potential future here in Jacksonville. You've got Chattanooga Red Wolves, which are a League One team, and Chattanooga FC, which is a NPS Next Pro independent, and they went 1-1 in full time, and then Chattanooga Red Wolves won in PKs 5-4 to advance. What a scene that must have been there at Finley Stadium.
Yeah, well, and I've been to many more Chattanooga FC games than I have Red Wolves, and it's a great atmosphere. It's a great club. Yeah, that's got to be a bummer. You know that it was live for that.
Some others of note, FC Naples, a 3-0 win over Little Rock Rangers. FC Naples has had a terrific start to their first year in League One in terms of the support down there. FC Tulsa advances, and El Paso Locomotive knocked off LA Galaxy 2. Both squads with a red card there. They played 10v10 for the last half hour of that match in a 3-0 El Paso victory. Tony, I know the US Open Cup for you is like heaven.
It is. Well, it's just you get to see these communities, face off, and they even in that the Menace match, there was a red card, but there was also like the bench. Some people on the bench got red cards. It was insane. I mean, it's so passionate. It's community versus community, and also highlight that Chattanooga match, right? So,
by the way, Sasha Klashkin was one of the red carded in that Des Moines match. Yeah.
So Chattanooga, right? So people, and I think rightly so, Armada's been around a long time. People are like, I say we're working on the soccer team. We've got a women's team about to kick off. They're like, oh, are you Armada? I'm like, no, that's a different team, and people are kind of shocked. Okay, we're going to have two soccer teams. Man, there are so many soccer fans in this city that in the Armada size stadium, they'll be able to sell that out. There's plenty of room. Chattanooga as a city is smaller than what we know are soccer fans in Jacksonville, right? So there's 300,000 soccer fans according to the data, Nielsen or whomever. And then there's only a couple 100,000 people total in Chattanooga, yet they have two pro teams, and they're both standing up teams, and they're both got great crowds, great expectations. It's beautiful. We're going to have that. We are, in fact, I think we're going to have more eventually. We're a massive city.
Yeah, it's something to look forward to. And Mauricio, almost every big country or big soccer country has something like this. So, whether it's the FA Cup or Carabao Cup, some cup competition among all the leagues. In the United States, it holds different significance because, one, the age of the competition, but two, because of the lack of promotion relegation. This is one of the rare times where most teams will have the opportunity to potentially play against, an MLS squad, a first division team at some point if they earn their way through.
Well, and I think even though some parties tried to squash the US Open Cup a few years back, I actually think it's going to get back on the climb and it's going to rise again in interest. CBS Sports Golazo picking it up when you get into the next rounds. And then you have all these lower league teams, like a Des Moines Menace and Alfaro Lido, and, that are starting to actually invest money in it. It's not just, if we make it, no, they're actually bringing in these ex-pros and they're taking teams to the wire. The more they can do that, that's what happens overseas. It's this non-league football, ancient historic clubs that have a lot of really good players that maybe work, elsewhere. But they're talented. And in a one-off game, anything could happen. At least you can make a splash, and all of a sudden you're going to a USL Championship or MLS team and playing in front of thousands of people. So I think that this is going to continue to, whatever people try to do to squash it, I think it's going to have a reverse impact.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Can't quiet you can't quiet the Tony Allegretti's down of this world
As
And
we
there
have
are
learned on
millions
this
of them in
podcast.
the US.
Yeah.
Yes.
We've
That's
tried. We've
correct.
tried.
Correct.
And it's impossible
So-
for good reason. So
So if you are the team that's playing El Farolito next, right? Were you hoping to play, Monterey Bay and a championship team as opposed to these plumbers and DoorDash drivers that are I think that's the magic. That is the absolute magic of this thing.
Well, while you're doing this, let me see if I can find the upcoming. They haven't published the
No, I don't think the mix
the
is
next
out.
round yet. Yeah. So as we record this, so who knows who might get El Farolito might be taking on who knows. Maybe AV Alta Vista, maybe something, could be a whole different thing. It'll be something out west, one would think, as they try to stay as regional as possible.
Right.
By the way, in the third round, the rest of the USL Championship clubs join the play. So we'll see the teams that were playoff teams last year getting their shot.
Probably be like Roots or Republic for the burrito guys.
I think Roots are out, right?
Oh, are they? Yeah, sorry.
So,
Yeah.
but anyway, we'll check it out. We'll see how it all plays out as we get closer. All right. Do want to remind you that you can catch the Sporting JAX report on TV every weekend, most of the time, noon Saturday on NBC 12. This week, because of a change in the NBC schedule, we will be on ABC 25 at noon. And you can also join us every Tuesday at 6 on 1010 a.m. And I'll go ahead and make this special announcement for those who are podcast subscribers. We've not released this to the public yet, but I'm making the executive decision right now.
Yes.
We are changing the show on 1010 to become the Coaches Show presented by Sporting JAX. So every Tuesday, we will have an opportunity for you to hear from Mark Warburton and from Stacey Balaam, and some other folks we'll have involved as well. But
Becky on occasion, I hope.
sure, absolutely, yeah.
Club legend.
Yeah. So we'll have that opportunity, and we'll have more of an exciting announcement coming soon, where we're expanding our broadcast capabilities and reach, and I think you'll be looking forward to hearing what that's all about coming up very shortly. So that is available on demand on 1010xl.com, as well as listening live on air or online. Also, if you're not quite ready to become a season ticket member of Sporting JAX, you can just become a member.
Yeah.
Free.
Yeah. Walk in.
Just say, hey, sign me up.
Yep.
I'm in. You get discounts on Sporting JAX official club merchandise, invitations to insider events, automatic chances to win special prizes and experiences, and you'll receive the Sporting JAX email newsletter, keep you updated with everything that's going on with the club. Just go to sportingjax.com to sign up. It's absolutely free.
And when you do that, if you're out in the community, if you're to the arts market or wherever you are, and you see us, ask for your founding member pin. We still have some, and I've asked Riley to take them out everywhere.
Okay.
And so please remember to get that because they're limited time and they're so nice.
All right, that's a great point. And I believe that some folks will be out at the Fleming Island Saturday Market coming up this weekend on Saturday. If you're listening before then, from 9:30 to 2, you can catch some folks.
You can sign up. You can sign up on the spot at the Flem Island, and Riley will give you a pin.
There you go. All right, let's talk Premier League, or specifically FA Cup. 4 Premier League teams remaining. No lower division teams are in. On April the 26th, we'll have the semifinals. Nottingham Forest hosting Man City. Crystal Palace hosts Aston Villa. All right, Mauricio, give me your thoughts. You still feeling the same about the way this thing's going to go down the rest of the way?
yeah, I got Nottingham Forest all the way.
Yeah.
I just think, they just took down Man United again this past weekend. Nowadays that doesn't mean too much. But they're on the roll. They're the hottest team. All these teams here, and this means absolutely everything for them because, not only does it qualifies for Champions League, but it's a cup, right? And they want to lift the cup, and they put a lot of money into that roster. So yeah, that's the ticket that I'm riding with.
Yeah, almost certain that they're going to qualify for Champions League based on their positioning in the Premier League. So you talk about what this means for the other clubs. Crystal Palace does not have a chance to get to Champions League positioning.
Quietly having a great year though.
They're 12th in the table.
That's not really bad if you look at who's above them. They're playing better than some teams.
They're ahead of Man U and Tottenham and
Bournemouth sliding. There's some folks sliding. I wouldn't be surprised if Palace bumped up a little bit there, and I think they'll make a tough opponent.
Playing well right now, unbeaten in the last 4 in league play. Tony, again, FA Cup here. There are some. There's something to play for all these teams. For some of them,
this is it.
This is what they have to play for.
Right. Which is the magic of the cup. And I'll go again with my boring prediction because I just kind of feel like it's going to happen.
What was your boring prediction?
City.
City. Yeah. By the way, I asked Mark Warburton. He also thinks City.
Yeah.
Mauricio and I are standing over here with Forrest, so we'll see how that'll play out.
Well, so Forrest is amazing. So, we know Forrest well through their our connection with that club, and I've gotten Murillo is so awesome in the back, and Gibbs White, and it's just in Woods, he's got an absolute nose for the goal. They're so fun to watch and so good and having such a good, and they've been so lucky without these catastrophic injuries that a lot of clubs are having. It's a banger year for those guys.
It really has been.
They got to be happy.
Can you imagine make the Champions League, win the FA Cup? Will go down. It's certainly their best year of this century, and you'd have to go back a ways to find one that would rival that. All right, that'll do it for us here on the Sporting Pod. Want to remind everybody, if you haven't already, please subscribe wherever you find your favorite podcasts. You can also, if you haven't already, subscribe on our YouTube channel. A little bit of inside baseball here, but we have seen a tremendous growth in our YouTube subscribers ever since we started doing some live streams of our announcements. It's up about 30% in terms of our total subscribers. We'd love to see that continue.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, so share that information with your soccer fan friends. Let them know where to subscribe, and we will bring you the very latest on what's happening with regard to Sporting JAX, the behind the scenes, the additional deep dive commentary that we get here, as well as what happens on TV, radio, and on our social channels as well. For Mauricio Ruiz and Tony Allegretti, I'm Cole Pepper. Thanks so much for listening to The Sporting Pod.